A bada bing, a bada boom, a bang, a ka-ching, a kazoom, a kawow. 1,000 a week. What do you think about that?
Ooh, 1,000 a week? Are you serious?
And from now on, you want anything, you just ask. Okay, how's anybody supposed to know you're worth anything if you don't say nothing?
I want 2,000.
That's what I'm talking about. No.
Alright guys, this is episode 3 of The Penguin. Back at you again with some bullshit talkery.
Right off the bat, it opened up with Victor's flashback.
Yeah.
And if you did watch the last episode, literally it's like they're listening to me. They did what I asked. This is like a super heavy Vic episode. Like this is all, not all, but largely about Victor.
Like we said, you knew his choices were gonna come to a head, so like we were gonna have to get down to where his heart was at eventually, and that's pretty much what this episode is about. And pretty much it would be back in what, 2022? Is that the year that the movie came out? Or
I mean, technically the show takes place in 2022 anyways, because it's all like a week after.
Yeah.
True. But yeah, like hypothetically a month ago maybe at this point or whatever. But basically the point in the Batman movie when the bombs go off, which again is another. It kind of reminds me a little bit of what they were able to do with like Daredevil and stuff like that, where they had those Netflix Marvel shows where it was all lower level, so there was never any plan of Matt Murdock going and talking to Tony Stark, but you had all these smaller characters that took place in this bigger world, so they could talk about events and when the aliens came down, and there was, I think they just called it the incident in that show or something, but yeah, you're getting these different local perspectives other than, I mean, where was Batman when the bombs went off?
Was he above the stadium?
No, it was the whole with the Tucker, the carpenter tool.
Oh.
Because it all happens in unison as he's looking over.
Okay, you see. Okay, yep.
Yeah, what Riddler's
shows
apartment.
The map layout.
Because they did like the match cuts of the flood. Whatever. Not totally applicable, but I think the cooler part of what they did were, and this is subtle, but I think it just shows there's professionals at work here, in my opinion, is there's no title card that says, a month ago or whatever, or when Riddler blew up they give you little news snippets or background audio and stuff like that.
Things the audience has to figure out. They make you wait for it, which I think is, it's not hard to figure out, but it's like, they don't need to tell you right away. 10 seconds in, you're thinking like, is this right now or is this in the past? Yeah. And then it's revealed to you right away. Okay, this is before the flood.
Exactly. And again, it's giving all the information to the audience. In the first episode, we find out that Vic's family is dead. So to sit there and watch him walk in and talk to his family, it's either a dream or a flashback. It's one of those two things, and then they're playing it out as a flashback. You see a little bit of, I don't want to say some night and day innocence in Victor or whatever, but he's in high stride as a normal person. You know what I mean? He's not jacking cars.
Literally, the first scene is him just cruising up to his girl. Yeah, getting schmitty with her. That I would also say that they did what I thought was going to happen, which is this is also her episode in a way where I think this is the only time we really see her.
That'd be my guess, spoilers,
but so we're introed into her. We see her in the first shot, so we know she's going to be a part of at least this episode for most of it.
I think I would summarize her. Did you get her name?
It's Graciela.
Yeah. Graciela, yeah. Other than the obvious story-wise thing of her being a relationship, I think in a writing symbolic way, she is kind of Victor's path to getting out of that life, of getting out of what Penguin has kind of opened up for him. Yeah. Exactly, and that's kind of her purpose in the story, and we'll get into it later about
how that goes down.
Yeah, the choice that she introduces to him. I think the symbolism of Graciela is that that other life, kind of that previous life, but something that still could have been ahead for Vic. That still could have been a future choice and a future path.
I mean, right after her, it's just his fam. Just more background on Vic, making him a lovable character.
And I think it touches on, again, a Victor-heavy episode, so kind of the moral or internal dilemma going on is the moral right and wrong of what's going on. And you get a peek at what I would consider the true compass of right and wrong and morals or whatever, to where the whole dilemma of Vic asking for money from or asking for more money, or that his father should ask for a raise and everything. And it's the line about
if you knew where we came from, this isn't that bad.
Exactly.
Great line. But yeah, you can just see I think they're trying to show the hunger in Vic of, even though I don't know if I want to say he sees his dad as giving up already, but he just has more of a hunger than I think his dad has.
I think it's that naivete. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether they expand on it or not, I think a lot of it is the idea of like Vic seeing fast money or whatever. Squid, the cousin, who I'm assuming they never explain it or put it out there, but I would assume it'd be a scenario where he maybe has more cash money to toss around than his dad does or something like that. So I think it's Vic growing up with these examples of the dark route, the crime, whatever, and how that's fast money, that's quick money, and the results are plain to see in your face, and that's something that he desires growing up in a household that's not making that much money. But his dad is kind of meant to be that North Star that's kind of pointing him to an honorable path.
Yeah, a fulfilling life.
Indeed.
I was just gonna say that whole his family, I think that scene or that relationship in particular was good at showing the real to life side of Gotham again, where you're talking about low level drug dealers and how they affect the home of the people around them. But yeah, I thought it was good
with his dad and stuff that we'll connect it in later, because that's going to come to combat with Oz. You know what I mean, and the kind of mentor figure that he's being for Vic, and then of course the choice that Vic makes at the end of the episode. And how that all kind of plays in kind of the contradictory nature of making the right or the wrong decision. But yeah, I mean, obviously then you have the blow up scene, which
so Vic and his dad get a little spat. You were talking about Squid. I'll just, for the audience out there, essentially rooftop scene, just basic youth stuff again, true to life. But talk about the explosion sequence, how you felt about it.
I would say they got the party up there, which you knew was coming the whole time. At least, you know, I mean, it's kind of that tension on a wire. I didn't expect his apartment to literally be like down the street.
That was
a look away.
They did everything to like with the flowers. It's not bad writing, or I think it's cool or whatever, but they had to like point out his apartment, like had the mom
the nice little quaint.
It's the one apartment with flowers on the thing, and his mom standing on the balcony. He's like, you can see it. It's right there, 100 yards from the fucking wall. You know.
I was really, really impressed in the Batman of how good the destruction in the water looked on the big wide shots of Gotham being flooded. So I was skeptical. I was a little scared because I thought if they're going to tackle this scenario and be at that time, I want them to execute, you know what I mean? And if they can't execute, they got to get clever about how they're hiding it or how it's a subtle type of thing. I'm happy to report pleasantly surprised. I think the water looked really good. We were talking about the possibility that it might be like a reused shot or something that was on kind of the cutting room floor for the sequence in the Batman, and they were able to repurpose it for this show, which I would imagine is what happened, or at least, I mean, I'm sure you could maybe look back in the movie. I wouldn't be surprised if it is the same image doctored up or something like that, you know what I mean?
No, it really did feel close to what the film brought. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was something that didn't make it. We kind of talked about how it's cut. Even them adding his apartment in later wouldn't have been difficult from angles.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a good heartfelt scene. You feel for Vic. Some decent acting, him trying to call his mom, all that.
Yeah. I think the audio was cool too. Of it pretty much goes silent, or it's like muddled out, kind of like you're submerged in water. So I think that adds to the emotion in the scene, and it's not just all chaos. It's not just all chaotic, explosions and.
That's all in the intro. That's what's that called?
Title screen.
That's pre-title screen. So that's all in the intro, and then we're given some decent comedy right after the heartfelt scene, which I like to point out. I think that's always a good way to do it, is get your audience feeling things and then bring it back into the show with a little bit of comedy. But you cut back to Oz's apartment. Victor's there.
Yeah. Again, you kind of a pull out on Victor as he's staring out the window. I think they did like a fade in from black through the title card, kind of in on Victor, which again, it's just a little image showcasing that this episode is really honing in on Victor and his external and internal choices at the moment. But yeah, you got basically them prepping for Sophia coming over. Yeah. A little comedic scene about Vic getting paid for the first time, coming out with big bands.
For real. Gee, week, bro.
Yeah, for real. The cool thing was with Sophia coming in, you get a little bit of comedy of Vic being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
His stutter is going nuts.
They really want to keep pushing that she has this reputation. Like they continue to bring that up, that they're really trying to push or show that the media has a narrative about her, and they keep bringing that up. So Vic's scared of being alone with her,
and he's got something to hide.
Yeah, exactly. Which he kind of fucks up on.
Yeah, through talking to Vic, you get a little bit of, which another theme of reveal in this episode is the past that Oz has with Sophia.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it. I haven't read too much of like the Long Halloween, so I don't know if that's a part of it at all. I'm assuming not. I'm assuming this is for the show. But the whole dilemma of Oz being a driver for her, and then eventually revealed that he was integral to her getting locked up. We can expand on that, especially with the conclusion of the episode.
Yeah, that comes up a little bit later, because I'm trying to remember when she says what you did to me, because I think I wrote it down, but there's a specific scene where they just keep dropping hints at it.
In earlier episodes?
No, in this episode. I think like even just then she just says just like old times, and then later on whoa,
someone downstairs.
What was that? But later she just says like was it worth it what you did? It's when they're up in the club. I think that's when you first realize that he did something to her, and you're like, he's the reason that she's an artist.
Which was after Johnny VT. Whatever, they take off.
Well, she switches the plan on him. That's a little, again, she's the tension builder of the show. And so Oz has this plan that him and Vic are talking about, and she comes in and blue balls him. And it's just like, no, that's not at all what's going to happen. So they go alone to their meetup.
Yep.
For Bliss.
Yeah, and introduces the drug finally. Yeah, exactly. Finally, after 3
episodes, you get to see what the original,
Alberto,
the first scene was
what
about.
Alberto was cooking up. Which I do like that they keep kind of twisting it, so it's not just. I thought it was going to be something simple, like I don't know, some new crime families coming to town and they're talking about plans or whatever, but it's a whole new drug. And I'd like to touch on a little bit about Bliss later on, but just for the plot, expanding that it really, at least from what they're showing and what they're suggesting, is that it's more Sophia's plan, and she's initiating this, and that maybe Alberto was the one kind of front running it so that it looked like his idea when really she's kind of the puppeteer or whatever.
That was a good. I liked how the two of them bounced off in that, where Oz is kind of he's getting found out. He's
still bullshitting.
Yeah, he's bullshitting, and he does it well to where it feels like she knows, that it feels like she's figured it out, but she just doesn't care, but also she doesn't have any proof.
Keeping on what you're saying, I think part of it too, what I like is that with Alberto having pretty much 2 scenes this whole show so far, they are doing enough for the audience to dig kind of who he was as a person, where I think there's a little bit of similarities between him and Oz, in the sense that like Oz is able to get away with so much bullshit because Alberto himself was a little bit of a bullshitter.
Yeah, but yeah, it plays into Oz's favor that he wasn't this strict boundary guy that was a yes/no.
Exactly.
So she can't prove anything.
It's in Alberto's character to kind of leave Sophia out of it and take the credit for it. Maybe that was intentional on her part to have him be so, with her reputation, it wouldn't tarnish the opportunity. But it's all coming and playing in Oz's favor kind of at each lie he tells. And then you introduce Bliss, which, just an offhand thing that was kind of funny, is they like bark at Oz to not touch him, and then immediately
Sophia grabs.
Yeah, just literally grabs it, like the one that he was gonna grab.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
no, Oz, get your filthy fucking hands out of here.
In the one mycologist dude was trying to say, like, if you touch one, it'll mess up the whole mycology system.
Doesn't matter about her.
Yeah.
She's top G.
I guess crazies are immune. But then cutting back to
Victor being left at Oz's apartment, we cut back to him. He made a grave mistake. Yeah. I mean, it works out for him, but he just dumb moves from the get. But he invites his girl over.
Yeah. As I was watching it, I was like, couldn't you just go meet at a diner or something? I don't know.
Stand out in the hallway. I don't give a fuck. But, yeah, so he brings his bird over, Graciola. But it's just more about their relationship. Again, she's trying to give him that life that might be a better choice for him.
Yep. Oh, and this is when the opportunity is given, is when she's revealing that she's going to be leaving Gotham. She's going to California, I believe. And then when...
The Sunshine State.
Indeed.
Right?
Not anymore, I don't think. I think that's... Okay.
The home state.
Because Victor is conflicted, she sees that and has given him the opportunity, you can come with me. And a part of him does, you know what I mean? Which we'll get in later about why he makes the decision that he does when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
But that's really the purpose of this scene in the show is to give him that out.
That, and also I'm not sure if you were able to see it before, but this was kind of the reveal to me that he is afraid of Oz, That was the other dialogue point that was brought up, but it's heavy in the first episode. In the second episode, I kind of forget about it. And then they're bringing back to show the audience, I felt like, hey, he's still intimidated by Oz, but...
And I don't want to... This is a little bit of an opinion after the fact, especially watching this episode. I feel like I did pick up on it in the fact that, like, that's been my problem with his character so far. Okay. Not that there's issues or something, but why I wanted this episode and why I needed
gumption out of him.
Exactly, to where it felt to me that all of his motivation was fear, was that he wanted to do right by Oz, to not be in the crosshairs or to be a target by him in any way. So I think all the things he did for Oz was never out of hunger for himself or any power, to where now with this dynamic with his dad and Oz kind of being this new mentor figure, and especially giving him agency in this episode to make his own decisions and to choose this path for himself, whether for good or bad. By the end of the season, we'll see how it ends up. You know my prediction. I think it was completely necessary, and it evolves him as a character where he's not so secondary. He's actually a driving force in his own character arc now, rather than totally at the whim of whatever Oz has in store for him.
So basically that scene was for dum-dums like me, because I wasn't thinking that deep, and he's just like, he might not let me leave. Like, he explains it out. Yeah. So, and that's good for people that aren't thinking about it.
It sets up the tension of the episode, too, to where now for the rest of the episode, Vic is trying to bring up, because at least from that scene, he's set on leaving. He wants to go with Graciela?
Yep.
Okay.
He wants to get some ass.
Indeed. It's been too long.
For real. For real. Your house gets flooded, you quit for a minute, but it comes back eventually.
I don't mean to completely go back, but we were talking about Squid and everything. We never went back to go check on the first episode, but I have a hunch that the crew that Victor was rolling with when he was jacking Penguin's car was Squid, was those guys.
True.
And you brought up the idea that maybe it was Squid who got shot by Sophia
and then
when
the first
when Penguin's getting interrogated. I have no confirmation on that. I'm sure as soon as we're done with this, we'll check, and it's not. But I'm almost positive that at least he was rolling with Squid.
Yeah.
And again, that dynamic of somebody that is hush hush and you don't want to be a part of their life when things are good, and then flip the tables where he's pretty much all you have left a little bit. Or maybe his buddy is all who he had left at that point. That's who you go to. Yeah. That's all you know when shit goes wrong. But that was it pretty much.
That's a good connection. I didn't think about all that. It cuts to a little bit of
Sophia.
Yeah, with VT and Sophia.
Yep.
That was a small scene, but it was cool. I liked it.
It just adds to the tension, and I have no doubt that it's all going to keep building up for these next episodes to come, to where I do think, especially with the end of this episode, I don't know, her allies are dwindling.
That's for sure.
But yeah, the pressure is being put on Sophia, and I think that eventually that wire will snap on the Falcone family, and that'll leave them in a position to where they're kind of at the mercy of Sophia, unfortunately. They go into Chinatown, and then you get a little bit of exposition from Sophia about like the history with Falcones and everything, to where they kicked the
Triads.
Yeah, the Triads. Was it out of Gotham, or pushed him into Chinatown?
I think her quote is push him into Chinatown and like cut him from the drug running game.
Okay.
So they're not pushing drugs for the Falcone family, at least. Or I think she's trying to say they can't push drugs at all.
Yeah.
But I wrote down mafia shit because it is just a nice, that whole intro to Chinatown and them trying to sell Bliss is, again, feels more like your basic Sopranos or any your
mob show.
Yeah, mob show.
Oz's bullshit is impartial. It goes for everybody, you know what I mean? So he's kind of a scumbag all around town, owing people. It kind of reminded me like Uncut Gems, if you've seen that movie, to where literally everybody he runs into, he owes money in some way or fashion or a favor, and literally just living from opportunity to opportunity and kind of capitalizing on the little legroom he can get. He's
definitely the person that can't get killed because he owes everybody, kind of in a sense. Which I do like those characters.
Yeah, they want their return on investment.
Can't get your money back from a dead man.
You get Sophia and Oz really trying to pitch for the Triad to take up this new drug, Bliss.
They're talking to a low-level guy, too. That's kind of part of the plot or whatever, is that Oz can only get in with a deputy, is what they call him.
Dilo.
Yeah. Well, Sophia
Dilo's the big dude.
Sophia wants to go straight to the big dog, Dilo, but Oz points out that all he can get to is a deputy right now. That's where his level is. It's a good separation of showing where people are at. But so they're in with this guy, Link's Eye. But so that's who Oz knows, and they're trying to pitch to him to get him to get the Dilo.
Yeah, to kind of vouch for them to get in contact with the Dilo, which I do like. I don't know how long it's going to last. Probably just this episode, I'd imagine. But the kind of duet that these two put together when they bounce back and forth, and they both kind of match each other's bullshit a little bit, where they're both lying, and that comes into Sophia also co-signing Oz's lie about Johnny Viti. To where you can see the kind of recollection in her head where she's like,
gears going.
Yeah, this guy's making it up, but it's working. And then, of course, whether the Link gentleman picks up on it or not, he needs proof other than from their mouth, which makes sense because Oz is Oz.
Yeah.
And that pushes to the point to where they get a guarantee from Link that if you can get VT to co-sign you, I'll get you in talks with the Die Low. So now that gives them the objective to get Johnny VT to lie.
And if you remember, Oz lost his upper hand there from the viewer perspective of he gave away his blackmail to the Maronis. So
yes, yep.
That's why he's kind of bluffing this, is that he, in his head, he can guarantee it, but he doesn't have it. He has to make up a plan to go get Johnny VT under his thumb.
Mm-hmm. It's all used later on of the usable ammunition against VT, to where that's what I really appreciate is the show is not willing to forget even little tiny things, to where you think maybe the Maronis will use it eventually, but it still is in that knowledge, whether you have proof or not of documents, that knowledge is still in Oz's back pocket, which he does use.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, this whole time, Vic is sitting pretty dumb, by the way. I get it, it's a show, whatever, but has a duffel bag full of drugs. And
partially unzipped.
Yeah, literally just leaving it open because the audience can't understand that there's drugs in a bag or something, which even if they do that, a little shot of him panicking and zipping up the bag would have gone a long way.
It made him look dumb to where it was very obvious that there's drugs spilling out of this bag. And his first thought is like 10 and 2 instead of trying, you know what I mean? Where it's like, dude, put your shit away. And you're in a bright purple fucking whatever color that is.
But the main reason I want to talk about this scene, and we agreed on it the other night, was really just how well handled it was. And again, it's like every time I'm like, I don't think I'm going to like where this is going, the showrunners are like, no, let us cook. Which I think it easily could have devolved into your typical kind of cop pulls over minority, and now he's pushed up against the hood, and the only way it's able to be solved is Oz comes out and is like, hey, break it up, here's some money. But again, it gives agency to Victor to make his own decisions and to get out of it himself, to where Oz doesn't even have to come out. He doesn't know about it until later.
Exactly. They definitely could have gone down the road of he's helpless in this situation because he's a minority, and they did the opposite of that, which is great to see. Yeah.
And it almost feels intentional a little bit.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, is they definitely hint at this vibe of this is a racist cop who only did this because he's got curly hair. But, for it to pull out the way it did with Victor hustling his way out of it. Yeah. It was great. I thought it was a really good scene.
No, and it's clever, too, to where even... Again, I'm sitting there like, oh, that's how he's doing it. What money? It's just really well done. And every time... they keep leaving me in surprise. Not that I'm some fucking 300 IQ, know every plot point of a story or whatever, but just when I think it's about to get generic, they keep pushing the envelope. They keep finding their own ways to make it original. So kudos to them. Kudos to Lauren LeFranc. Kudos to Lauren LeFranc.
And I believe, if I'm not incorrect, I'm assuming this is the last episode from Craig Zobel.
I believe so.
Yeah, but again,
at least credited
to him too.
Which I would like to keep an eye out for who's directing what.
Definitely.
Now that I say that though, after the episode breakdown and stuff, it did say 1 through 3, but I thought I saw a lady's name for director during the credits.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised. It definitely, I was going to say, it had a more comedic tone. I think there was more points of comedy in this one than there were in the previous two, but, and I'm a big comedy guy. Yeah, so they're pitching to Link that, the ending line is Oz has a plan, essentially. Yeah. So it cuts to Oz's plan. Now we're in a high-end restaurant.
Which I do like, again, where it's him hinting, where you almost don't trust Oz. Where it's like, do you have a plan? and then it just sneaks up on you where you think they're kind of out celebrating. It feels like a distraction from the main plot of what's going on.
I think Oz is just a perv for like a minute and a half, you know?
No, exactly. Where he's just eyeing this table of girls. But the main meat, other than how it connects up into Oz's plan of the dinner scene, is this bonding between Victor and Oz. And again, it's the thematic question of the episode, in my opinion, is Oz right or is Victor's dad right, in a sense of like what is truly the moral, noble answer. And I think Oz kind of has adopted this like nihilistic approach to where we're the underdog. Nobody gives a fuck about us. We got to take what we want to make.
I think he says America isn't set up for the honest man.
Yes.
You got to take take everything you earn or whatever it is.
And I think it just comes back to what is enough for you and whether you know what's enough or not. You know what I mean? To where you could definitely argue those without are always going to have a taste for more. But it just becomes this dilemma that Oz is kind of pulling Victor into.
This might be the incorrect way of describing it. I'm not good on verbiage, but it does feel kind of gaslighty. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's convincing Victor to feel the way he feels.
Yes.
He's not really bringing up great points, but he's just telling him how he feels and trying to get him on his side.
Yes. And even more so when the actual real conversation later in the bathroom, which kind of contradicts Oz's whole compliments to his dad. This, it just makes you second guess what Oz is saying in this scene once you know what he says, what he really feels about Victor's dad in the bathroom scene. To where this whole time he's kind of congratulating and kind of putting on a podium Victor's dad for being an honest man who's working hard, and using all this to kind of instill a responsibility in Vic to honor his father by making money, and not in an honest way, not in some noble way or something like that, by being like me.
Exactly.
Take it like me.
You got to run the city to prove something.
Exactly.
But then it's time for the plan. So as Oz is perving, he sees his target is alone. I did like that scene. I liked that Oz has this presence. You get to see his Waldo as he walks up. I've always liked those. But all he says to Luca's wife, who I don't know the name of, but is verbatim like, I need a favor, it's gonna sting. Which I wanted to bring up because are we assuming that she already knows that he has dirt? Or is it just like I assumed that she already owes him for something, which is cool backlore to me, or
maybe. I mean, I don't know 100%. I think if anything, based off her reaction, she knows it's not good that he's coming up to talk to her, especially solo.
Yeah.
Especially in an environment where it'd probably be disrespectful to go talk to the Don's wife in any way. So I think the more of the favor stuff is without revealing it. That I know what you've been doing, and you're gonna do what I ask.
Yeah, it was good. It's always cool to see Oz have his power moments because that is his balance. When he's with somebody that's above him, he's very under their. Yeah,
he's kind of a shoe shiner.
Exactly, and then when he has his moment to shine, he uses it like a baller. That cuts right to the plan of Ketch and VT doing the no-no.
Indeed.
They go kicking down doors.
Yeah.
Which would be scary if you were VT.
Oh, man.
I mean, he done fucked up.
But you'd think, I'm not trying to poke plot holes in it or whatever, but you'd think if he knew how bad this was or whatever, that he'd have a guy posted out or something in front of the door.
Yeah.
Again, and not like they need to explain all the details. You could say Luca's wife coerced it to where it was kind of quick in the moment, whatever. Besides the point, they bust in. Again, this is when they're in good, Sophia and Oz, to where they're doing the bounce back and forth again.
They're bonding currently.
Yeah, pretty much.
This scene, this is their run of working together well. and it kind of comes to a hit here.
Yeah, exactly.
VT.
Kind of using whatever ammunition he has, he's shit talking on them working together, to where he already doesn't like Sophia. He doesn't respect her. He doesn't think that she has any.
In the earlier scene, he called her crazy and spoiled.
Yes.
So he really doesn't respect her, and I think he wants her out of the system because he knows she's dangerous to him, particularly. But
and to the family, arguably.
No, very, very true. I think he is that evil outsider that probably knows, good business, but he just wants to be the head guy. He's not even in the family.
Well, and also, this may be a reach, but I think it's a little bit like Succession in a way, to where someone like Carl or Frank or Jerry can be close to maybe, but are never going to fully respect any of Logan's kids the way they respect Logan. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's all the old guard.
Exactly.
Who see these kids who they've seen grown up and be spoiled and, probably get a whole mansion to themselves for a birthday party. And then to see them try and play boss, you're kind of like, come on.
Step over you after putting 10 years in.
Exactly. To where they probably think it's their time.
Exactly.
And arguably maybe they deserve it as far as expertise.
For real. I don't think he was lying about, the spoiled stuff. It was a good scene for her acting as well. You could see the hurt. She was hurt by it. But
yes.
Can we get a quick Succession cut real quick? If you guys want to listen to this, you can listen to this, but we might get cut. Do you think they were trying to nod at, or I just thought about it today. It was kind of interesting that Tom is the one that tags out the kid. Like, that kind of seems like a choice. I mean, I know he's playing or whatever, but
in the first episode,
where because it's the shitty spoiled brat is the one that pushes the kid to try and get it. I was just questioning if they're trying to show that like
a symbolism of
just that not necessarily Tom's trying to be in with it, but I was thinking of all angles. Maybe
that the outsider does the dirty work in a sense.
Well, I was just thinking about how the game's playing. Where he's at home plate, so if he wanted to be a wholesome farm boy, he could have let the kid get it, but they would have known and then been pissed at him. So I don't know. I was just thinking about it deep.
If anything, I'd say it's a character moment to where, especially at that point, Tom is looking for any into the family to get any sort of respect.
Exactly.
So I don't even think it would be on his radar to do any moral
correctness
decision or whatever, something like that. To where I think him being the one to strike him out shows his eagerness to be of use to Logan in any sort of way.
No, I just thought it was because again, just writers and shit like that were they didn't have to have him be the one.
Why Tom?
Yeah, it could have been anybody that tagged the kid out.
But VT is trying to put a hitch in their relationship, so he's talking about, after all that he's done with you, which, as far as I understand, is kind of the first inkling to the audience of Penguin's relationship to Sophia and how he kind of screwed her over, especially with Arkham and all that she got locked up, which was all new to me because as far as they had painted out, it had been her doing that got her locked up in there in the first place. And this episode especially puts layers onto that to where there's more to be revealed, especially about what she was doing that warranted her being put in Arkham, arguably. But in a sense that she is a victim of her family, of manipulation in some sort of sense like that. And that she was kind of made into what she is now, this unpredictable, crazy person.
But so then VT hits Oz in the soft spot and calls out his respect. Nobody respects you. You're nothing to these people. And that gives us a good scene where Oz is lashing out. You brought up that it's very reminiscent of Alberto's death. It's a good mirrorism. It's the same
the trigger point. You know what I mean? It's the kind of the exact same premise to where Oz can take a lot but then when you totally degrade anything that he holds arguably in his ego that keeps him afloat, he just, I think it's purely instinct, and no reasoning or anything comes about him to where, I mean, I thought he killed him when I first saw it. I didn't realize it was the phone. I thought it was a knife.
True. We got some good audio in there.
Yeah, glass cracking, teeth.
No, it was an intense scene, tense sequence of things. I wrote down Sophia's smoking in the background, which is character trait, I think is the word I'm trying to look for, but
I also know she's chain smoking.
Yeah, this bitch is rolling through packs. I mean, every scene she's in, she's lighting something up, but it is, I think, just an intimidating thing. She doesn't give a fuck that she's in the hotel room.
Yeah.
Essentially, they get VTs.
Yes, to co-sign.
Yeah.
To call.
Fucking call the triads and get this shit rolling.
So that sets up their meeting with the Die Low, which I guess is happening in tandem with kind of this trial run that they're doing at the bar. Or is it the Triad bar? Was I correct in that? Or is it just a bar?
It might just be... No, I think you're right. I think they were when Oz shows up, they're setting up for a night, probably. Okay. So you're seeing the upper level of that club that Oz walks into. But yeah, so they're at their club. This time it's not with Link. It's the big boys. But it's just Oz's and Sophia's pitch. They do it well. Oz gets greedy right at the beginning, of course. You start to see him. He flips back and forth between like an honest character and a selfish character. So as soon as he has an opportunity to tie himself into the making of something big, he's going to do that. It's
a ladder. It's a ladder for him. So he wants to get a foot on there. You know, I mean, he's not the kind of character to go ahead. I'll be right behind you. He's trying to be on the same rung you are. And he's going to take whatever advantage. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say I kind of skipped ahead there. The reason they're there is for the trial run of Bliss, the drug we were talking about. And again, I just said that Oz flips from this honest character to a selfish character, and you really see that right here because right before the meeting starts, Oz, gives a really wholesome encouragement to Vic. It feels very father-son situation where he's telling him, you can do this, I believe in you, as he's getting him to sell drugs.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's just a nightclub basic montage scene of Vic on the floor getting the girls to run drugs for him.
Yep.
It's Eve's hookup. Oz is getting his, would you write down, prostitutes?
Yeah.
He's getting the prosties to get out there and move some money for him.
The women of the night. Then meanwhile, eventually they do have the pitch to the Die Low. And he's pretty skeptical right off the bat. He's not really trying to get into it. And a prefix beforehand is that Sophia is still hurt by being reminded of what Johnny Vitti said. So she kind of sidelines Oz to where she's basically saying, this is my deal.
Exactly.
You're just helping facilitate it in some sort of way. So now Oz has kind of got to be in the shadow, perched on her shoulder in a way. So she's really headlining the whole speech. And again, I'm expecting with that setup in that context that it's going to go south and Oz is going to hop in and he's going to be the saving grace and that's what's going to cool things out or whatever. But no, she, through her own selling and her experience and her research and really relating to the Die Low, she's the one who gets the deal. Which again, I do like. It's just more thematic, I feel, than him, let's shake hands. But same as with like Johnny Vitti making the call or the Die Low agreeing, it's all off screen. You know what I mean? They make these kind of ultimatums and they walk out.
Exactly.
And then it's the next scene where we fucking did it.
Exactly. That I was going to bring that up, is that you walk away from that not knowing if they get it or not. She pulls her baller move of we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah. And during her whole thing, she reveals, which I'd imagine they're going to expand on with flashbacks or whatever, that this Bliss drug is what they used in Arkham. I was a little confused I believe she said they gave us. So it sounds like the faculty at Arkham is using it as a treatment drug. Which also, I mean, I don't know. I think they tried to reason with it that he had psychological beliefs or whatever, or philosophies on people. But I don't know exactly how a drug that's given to mental patients would be the selling point.
Well, she does it well. Essentially, you're right that it's the faculty giving it to her, and she explains that it's a euphoric drug, makes people forget about the pain they're going through. And then she pushes the point of, look at these people, their city's burning, they need this, think about how much money you'll be making. So it is greed. She shows him it's a smart move, that this drug is going to sell. As they're going through the meeting, you're cutting back to the drug doing well on the floor. You know, so you see the popularity there, so you know it's going to be the right move for him, and she proves it essentially.
During her talk, I believe Victor has a PTSD freak out. The trauma comes back in, which at first I really liked, where I thought they were going subtle with the effects and everything, where it's like muffled explosions and it's just a flash of the lights that gets on them, and then eventually they go buck wild to where it's like, no, we're right back. And I will say, maybe it was just the first time watching it, maybe I need to check it out again, but it wasn't as smooth as like the opening scene was, at least in my opinion.
It definitely wasn't. Me rewatching it, you can see them cut to the angles and try and match the shot up with where he is now. The drug drop was pretty cliche to me. I thought about it, and there wasn't a reason for it to be there. You know, it really was just more chaos that's going on. But him freaking out and falling to the ground is enough for me.
No, I figured there would be consequences to it, to where the drugs would get stomped on, and now they lost money, and that's something against him, to where it's pretty much ignored immediately, and he gets congratulated in the next scene with Oz.
I did want to bring up that I think they're hinting at this Roxy girl. I swear, my theory is something bad's gonna go down with this bitch.
The fact that she's smiling and everything every time they see each other, there's definitely gonna be something in there. What do you have predictions as far as bad? Like, she's just gonna get him into trouble?
I think she's greedy, essentially, where like, I think they're trying to show, because the first time you see her, she's curious about his and Oz's relationship, and then she's trying to loosen him up in this nightclub scene and like get close to him, and then he freaks the fuck out, which I think they're trying to also mirror her with Graciela, who that's what one of his main conflicts is in this episode. But as soon as she steps in and tries to fill this female position in his life, he starts freaking the fuck out, thinks back to the time he was with her and this traumatic event happened, and she literally becomes Graciela. But I think, spoiler, now that she's gone, that she's going to try and fill a role, and it's going to become chaotic for Victor.
Yeah, probably. I'm on your side as far with that, though. I think she is going to be a problem in some sort of sense. And if not, I do think she's going to be a hollow hole filler. Not intentional, but it works out.
She's going to be filling her hole.
I think she's going to be a hollow replacement for Graciela and some sort of romantic interest for Victor, when it's just not going to be the same. And maybe that might mirror Eve for Oz. I don't know how that is.
We get to one of the better scenes in the episode. I think there was like 3 great
and also,
scenes.
One of my favorite scenes in the show so far.
Yeah.
I mean, we're 3 episodes in, so who knows. But just a really powerful scene. And again, I think, especially with Sophia later on, it's big for Victor, but like just 2 really powerful performances from Colin Farrell with both of these.
You're saying this scene and the one coming up
with Sophia? I think like
2 great scenes from him,
back-to-back ones, and they almost feel equal.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Where it's like one is more rage and one is more sorrow.
You're getting to see the layers of Penguin right now, and he's doing a good job of it.
To where I think this is really Oz being more honest about pushing this idea of his father and kind of any last-ditch effort to keep Vic with him. To where, I mean, just the context, he comes in to congratulate him, and then Vic is really distracted by his phone. He checks it out. Boom, now he knows. Yeah, it's just funny. What does he say? He's like, for what, some tail?
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, Oz definitely walks in and thinks this man's working for the mafia.
Yeah.
Give me the phone. Now.
He thought the Maroney's were
literally, dude. Who's paying you? But, no, it turns out that Victor's just getting heart-struck by his girl.
He's ditching town.
Yep.
Which, again, I did like that, like, kind of to prove Victor wrong, that Oz is like, if you can't appreciate what I'm doing, go. Go be with your girl and have an average life.
Yeah.
And is basically, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but from Oz's point of view, is saying, like, go be your dad.
Yeah. Go
be kind of forgotten. Go make a mediocre living and be an honest man and not get paid what you should for who you are. And he's trying to kind of dangle that, again, like a last-ditch effort to keep Vic in his control. I just like the layers of the scene to where really it's Oz who saw so much of himself in Victor, and to kind of have the table flipped on him, or the curtain revealed, to where there's not loyalty, or he's not respected in a way that he feels he would respect himself for giving him this opportunity. It's fear. He feels that literally the kid thinks he's about to die if he doesn't do what he says. And it puts a bad taste in his mouth for the first interaction they had in the episode, where he pays him, and they have a little chuckle between each other. And
I was just thinking about that, where I also felt with that underlying, you could really see Oz's loneliness too.
Yes.
He's definitely a lonely guy, and I was just thinking that the other person he's closest with is Eve, and he pays her, or at least it's always good dynamic. She doesn't feel that it's necessary. I think she is connected to him, but he feels it's necessary. He doesn't have any self-confidence to. I think he thought Vic was different. He thought Vic enjoyed spending time with him, and that they were bonding, so it really hurt him to this big reveal to him that the kid thinks I have a gun to his head all the time, which he does.
Exactly. And again, it like, without saying it, just the whole line of is this all you feel? It feels like a painting in itself of the profound nature of what he's trying to say, without totally spelling it out for the audience of like, what, I'm always pointing the gun at you. He's doing it. He's showing him, and kind of instilling that fear into him, and gives him the opportunity to go. He literally tells him, if you don't want to be here, go.
So Vic takes the whip. Yeah.
Which, I mean, again, he came back
eventually.
So whatever. But when that was happening, it was like, oh no. Vic, you got the good to go, and now you just stole his car. Now you're not good to go.
He could have made it to the airport by running. But there was a good mirror shot in that I really liked. I don't know if you caught it or whatever.
Yeah, where
they're both in that conflicted state. You just get to see they're both kind of thinking the same thing.
Is it the whole thing where Vic watches her go, and then it cuts to Oz mirrored?
Yeah, exactly. And
profile.
He's at the bar.
Yeah, and he walks away.
But yeah, I just like mirrored shots like that, or anything artsy, I guess.
Which we'll touch on again afterwards. But like, again, back-to-back powerful scenes. Immediately, Oz goes out to talk to Sophia, and she's still kind of pouty, whatever. She got the deal, but she's still hurt by Oz, and I think it's just weighing on her. She can't trust Oz. You know what I mean? And like, as much as he may be beneficial in getting up, there's always going to be a second guess of when he's going to either betray me or not exactly, but is he going to put me back in Arkham?
I was
metaphorically.
Literally going to say he. Not only can she not trust him, but he is currently the reason that she has problems in the public eye. He is responsible for her being the hangman, and that comes all into light with a good argument between the two of them. There's a couple good lines where Oz explains, and this is where we were talking about his acting's good. He's tearing up, but he just explains the relationship between him and Sophia's father, and that he didn't think it would result in her going to Arkham. Which, again, I believe. You don't really know, but you want to believe that, I should say.
I think, me trying to be armchair psychologist, I think why Oz is so good at bullshitting is he's able to twist his honesty with a lie.
Yeah.
So I think
he can make himself believe it also.
Exactly. Where I think he is being honest, that maybe that didn't cross his mind, but when it did happen, again, it's still good for him. It still leaves one obstacle out of the road for him, to where I think he's just been able this whole journey to kind of turn off those empathy feelings or whatever, where he may have regrets or he may have whatever, where it's like, no, those are pushed to the side. The top is where I'm going.
And you also have to bring in that hunger factor for him too. It is relevant in the argument that she is a spoiled kid that comes from everything. She's never lived a life in poverty, and he was always living in poverty. So to him, it was a no-brainer. He's gonna get his, but it just didn't turn out well for her.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
Capo is.
It's just, this is from my time with The Sopranos.
Okay, that's what I asked.
It's kind of a captain in a sense or whatever, to where it's a mob underling, and that's what she was meaning, to where it's like, it's not, you're not the Dawn or whatever, but like she was saying, he got to run the docks, and he got to run the club, and
his own drop business.
Exactly, to where, again, that's just where he's just able to be truthful about it, where it's like, she's just kind of throwing it back at him of like, was it worth it betraying me for that? And he's like, for me it was. It was everything that I asked for from the very get-go. You know what I mean? I mean, verbatim, it's a guy like me. You know, and again, just an incredible, powerful performance, to where you're seeing kind of the wall crack and this emotion in his eyes, but it's never, you know, like...
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, he's not
still
totally sobbing. Guy. Exactly. Again, subtlety is everything, and especially something like that with a close-up, the camera's catching everything the face is doing.
100%.
And the audience is able to establish that so much more.
But so right after they have this argument, kind of explaining to us what happened between Sophia and Oz and why there's this tension, it goes right to Oz lighting her cigarette, you know, and it calms down, and then
that's just what's funny to me, of course, is the irony of her being very honest, and it's like, how do you expect, like, what can you do to show me that I can trust you? And he says, let me keep showing you or whatever, and then immediately a lie that he's been keeping up literally pulls up on him with a gun.
it was a good, I really liked that, because when he said, let me show you, I'm with Oz. Like, I'm full, like, you're gonna do it, you're gonna be one of the head captains of the family, and then it's just instantly thrown away.
It's just a reminder. It's like, hey, these guys that you made a deal with, which again is like kind of like Oz in a sense, where his whole focus on is what's moving him, right?
Surviving,
you know what I mean? So like, working with Sophia, getting this drug out there, pushing it with the triad, that's what's earning him standing. The Maronis aren't going to help him, not in this case or whatever, so that's why they're sidelined. Yeah. And then, of course, them being their own power, they say, no, fuck you. Yeah. You know what I mean?
He's just bouncing between families as soon as he's in trouble with, you know, the Maronis, he's going to
the Falcons
and vice versa, so... But she pulls up with 3 homeboys in 4 pieces to Oz's and Sophia's dome. We later find out.
And, of course, this whole time, it seems that Vic was going to meet up with his girl. He was going to leave with Graciela. Nope. He watches her get on the bus, which I did like in a sense that, like... But in a poetic nature, part of me wants to believe that Vic already made up his mind, and he just wanted to watch her go. In a sense, I feel like he needed to see it in front of him, rather than it all just like an imaginary thing. And maybe I'm reaching there. Maybe I'm seeing what I want to see. But part of me again, it's everything I say is always like, well, I would have done it this way or whatever, but I almost, if it really was a temptation for him, I would have liked the idea of seeing his hand waver, opening the door or something, where he kind of just freezes. And that meant to me that, again, he just needed proof in front of him that he made his decision. And he just kind of, like watching a boat go off into the sunrise or something, where it's like, I want to watch it go, but I know my place is here. And again, I could be...
No, you could... I think they tried to show a little bit of... I don't want to say hesitation. He was eager to go with her from the beginning. I mean, the second he hands her money, he does sound genuine, but... I mean, throughout the whole episode, you can tell he's conflicted. Basically, she just keeps hitting him up, and every time his opportunity to, confirm with her that he's going, he's doing something for Oz. And it's also it's rewarding things up until the moment that he has a PTSD freak out, which causes him to leave. But
also, I do think, tell me if I'm wrong, but he was cutting it down to the wire.
Yeah.
Right, Vic?
That's what I mean.
To where if Oz did not come up and confront him, how do you think it would have went?
That's what I'm saying, is that...
I feel like he would have stalled. I don't think he would have dipped off into the corner and left.
No, not at all. I think that was the whole thing where from the get of the meeting in the restaurant, that's when he first tries to explain to Oz he wants to leave, and it doesn't happen. It gets cut off by something. And it's a rewarding thing. It's Oz telling him to get his, essentially.
Yes.
And you just stay here and you'll become something. So that kind of distracts him from Graciela. And then the next time is in the club when Oz is talking to him, I know you can do this. He's giving him encouragement, and then that pushes him away from Graciela. So I do think that he wouldn't have made it. I don't think he would have replied. I'm thinking about me. You know me. I ain't gonna say nothing. But so I think he would have just watched the texts keep coming in.
Yeah.
But because that happened with Oz, again, it's a second chance for him to make the choice, and he's still... I think it's partly fear. I don't know if there's much... To me, I didn't feel like there was much strategy to it, other than he's too afraid to lead the life that he knows. That's kind of what the conversation was with Gracie too, where she brings it up and he's like, what do you mean your life is here? And she's like, both of our families dead. We can go anywhere. And he's just so afraid of the world beyond what he knows that he wasn't capable of doing it.
True.
So I think it hurt him just as much as it hurt her. That's why I was tearing up. You can see her looking for him and looks like a lost dog. But
and again, maybe this is a reach, but I do think in a contradictory way, Oz's talk in the bathroom did convince him to stay.
Yeah.
I think the fear kind of transferred from a fear of Penguin to being a fear of his father.
Yeah.
It may be in the wrong way too, because his father was a noble man, but the idea that you could die in an accident and have nothing to show for yourself, and that as honorable and as honest as you were, you're not taking exactly. There's no legacy left behind, to where it takes someone like Carmine Falcone, where this whole story is about the shifting hierarchy of trying to fill his role, and he was anything but an honest man. He was literally a rat in the Batman movie, you know.
You might be very right with that, with just we were joking about earlier, but the fact that he took Oz's car kind of shows where his mental state is at, and more of anger rather than, his choice of, like, if he just wanted to be with his girl, you're right, he probably would have found a different way, but he did have something to prove, so he's like, I'm gonna take your fucking car.
Exactly. Well, that's Oz is basically telling him, like, go be a nobody. You want to go die alone, or you know what I mean, you want to be a family man who nobody remembers, go ahead and be nobody. And he's like, well, fuck you, I'm not nobody, I'm gonna steal your car.
Exactly.
But again, I think probably for the first time in his life, there's really being a return on investment for his work. And unfortunately, it's in the mob. but I think that is too, I don't want to say good, but the results are too obvious in front of him to run away from that now.
Exactly.
But yeah, so he comes back.
Just in the nick of time.
Indeed.
His face when he shows back up did make me laugh. It was supposed to be a serious scene with him seeing
when he notices.
Yeah, because I know they just told him, like, okay, you know, you don't know this is happening, so I want you to be surprised. So he does this whole, like it's just very obvious that, I don't know, it was just funny to me. His acting was a little off in there, but it was a good scene. He shows up right in time, and it's his big move. This is the worst thing he's done. So, or
exactly.
The most, you know.
Well, again, it's like meta moment or whatever, but it's kind of like how I was talking with Barry or whatever in the breakdown of season 2 ending, where he's there on his own accord. No one told Victor to come back. Exactly. No one told him to run into Maroney guys.
Yeah.
He's doing that. And again, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted his own agency. I wanted him to pull his own weight, and not so much in a value way, but in a way to where he wants to be in this.
Yeah.
And he's showing that he wants to be in this. And that's what I appreciate about him.
I mean, that's the person that, you know, half an hour ago he was afraid of, and now he's saving his life. So you're very right that it's 100% his choice. He could have just been happy with what was happening and seeing the person that he thinks is controlling him.
Exactly. Or he could have froze. You know what I mean? He could have still been afraid. But again, I think it's the little power that Oz showed him that he could have that he uses to now make his own way. Cut.
That's what that'll do to you.
It's an energy drink.
But I'm sipping on a beer. I ain't burped once.
Sprecher.
It's made by Sprecher? Oh.
Juvian Sprecher.
Oh.
It's Orange Dream, so I think it's literally like the orange soda.
But energy drink style. I like it. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Sprecher.
Indeed.
If you're watching, we know that you are. Took that from Sal Volcano.
I would say that's about it. I don't know.
As far as the episode, that's a...
Besides just predictions of, you know, how it's going to go. Oz leaves Sophia.
Yeah, that's
leaves her behind.
Other big point. So, Oz is... The last words we see Oz say to Sophia is, "Let me prove to you that you can trust me."
Yeah.
And then when it cuts back,
dips.
He's like, "Fuck her. Let's get out of here." So, you know, the big plot point as of right now is what happened to her and how is that going to show up in their relationship.
I've told you my guess is that she's been kidnapped for leverage. And I really, not that I've seen a lot, but from the little thing you looked at the end of the episode for the trailer, which was, dude, I mean, a second. We saw a second.
I try and avoid it, guys.
And then I've seen some pictures a little bit, and it's just of like her still in an Arkham jumpsuit. So my guess is that this next episode is heavy on Sophia, and it's going to be more Arkham background and maybe like why she got sent and stuff like that, which I'm assuming is going to be in the midst of her being captured, is going to be flashbacks and things like that.
Yeah.
So I am excited to see that. I'm so, like, again, I think they're leaving little breadcrumbs to where you get a decent idea of the picture, but you still, I think maybe I said it in the last episode, I don't remember, but why is she called the Hangman? You know what I mean? Is there some actual like symbolic reason for that, or was she just murdering people? Who knows? So yeah, that'll be interesting to see. My guess is that I mean, maybe, who knows, but I don't see Oz sliding by with Sophia anymore. I feel like this alliance is done. Okay. Maybe that's a tall...
I'll kind of lean I'll play devil's advocate on that one. Again, I don't know if I would like or dislike. It depends on how it's done, but I think it's more of a common route that I agree. I think she's going to be in trouble now, and the only way logically for Oz to get back in is save her or somehow help her out of it.
Yeah.
And be like, no, I knew I was going to be, you know what I mean, bullshit his way out of it at the end.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you were fine the whole time. This was always our plan or whatever it is. But
again, it's... Who knows? She could be not captured, so all these predictions could be bullshit. She literally could be fucking saved. She's good. But say she is kidnapped. That's plenty of time for Maroni to reveal what Penguin's been doing. You know what I mean? So it's like, depending on how much information she gets, it could be kaput. So I think, at least in my opinion, the only way that they stay in alliance is by her being kept in the dark, which I find to be improbable.
Yeah, I don't think
or just not very likely. But yeah, I mean, that's
pretty much it for episode 3.
That's about it.
We're gonna see what comes next. We're catching up slowly, but
stay tuned for episode 4. I have heard, apparently, again, we're fresh. We have not seen episode 4. Apparently, the reviews are very high for this next episode, so I think it's going to be pretty fucking good.
I hope so.
Maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know. But, I mean, if it's anything close to what we've gotten for the past 3 episodes, it's fucking solid. Yeah. It's. I mean, this might go down. I'm not even going to say it. I'm not going to even...
No jinxes here.
I'm not going to mess with it.
It's a good show, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll hit you back with episode 4 coming up soon.
Indeed. Peace.
Let's go for 2. Give us some options.
We'll pick the better of the 2.
Yeah. We might even cut between the 2.
A bada bing, a boom, a bangity bing, bangity zoom. How about 1,000 right off the bat a week?
1,000 a week? Are you serious?
And if you need anything, you just ask. Okay, how's anybody supposed to know you're worth anything if you don't say nothing?
I want 2,000.
That's what I'm talking about.